How you see the energy issue in the international agenda? Because during the past years, it has grown its importance, but it has been very important also since the 70s. But what changes during these 4 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. The big change is in the supply and demand for energy, in particular oil resources. So in the 1970s, the oil shocks were driven by supply. So the OPEC countries purposely tried to restrain supply. Today, I think it's more demand-driven. I think it's a combination of China, the United States, and a growing global economy. With some speculation in the financial markets, I think have pressed up the price of oil over $100 a barrel, and it's put energy politics back in the forefront of international politics. And as in the 1970s, when energy politics become important, there are big winners and big losers. And I think today what's interesting is the winners, because the winners today are Russia, Iran, Venezuela, for example. So Russia, which was in the 1990s a collapsed former great power, is now a much more assertive authoritarian power, basically not because its economy has recovered tremendously, but because it's riding oil wealth. I think Venezuela can become a regional challenger in some ways to the United States simply because it has energy power. And of course, Iran is a country that the United States is trying to squeeze economically, but it's very hard to do, given prices as high as they are.
So according to you, the energy issue could change the equilibrium in the among the international, not superpowers, but the great powers in the international system, like the United States, Europe, China, but also Russia now, and maybe some countries like Venezuela. It has no story of being an important player in the international agenda.
Yeah, I think it elevates, it certainly will not make Venezuela a great power, but it will elevate certain states that otherwise wouldn't have the kind of voice they have. I mean, think about it. It's a huge transfer of resources. If you think about it from the perspective of American foreign policy, it's a huge transfer of resources to countries the United States is not very happy with. Iran, Venezuela, Russia. From the perspective of other countries, it could be more mixed. But it also has other implications too. Countries like China, for example, as energy prices go up, starts to feel more and more that it has to try to control sources of supply. So you have the potential for conflicts, for example, in the Spratly Islands or between China and Japan in Asia over who's going to control future energy resources. It's kind of a strange competition because there's a market for oil and you can buy your oil on the market, but countries always have this sense that they're better off if they have supply control themselves or if they have special partnerships with suppliers.
Mm-hmm. So you think that energy could turn into an issue that potentially could produce some kind of big conflict among these countries?
Potentially. I'm not sure. I wouldn't put a high probability on it, but potentially. If you think of this is the scenario that I would worry about. If energy prices stay high and as a result world economic growth slows, then countries start to feel much more insecure about their economic position. And then I think you have the potential for some conflict. If world economic growth stays steady and the oil price is high but stable and there's not a lot of uncertainty about sources of supply, then I think we'd be okay. I think that the thing that triggers conflict is the uncertainty of whether you will be able to get oil more so than the price is very high, because countries can adjust to price as long as they know the supply is there. I think countries worry more if they're worried that there won't be oil for them.
Mm-hmm. Going to Latin America, we have Venezuela is a big oil producer, also Bolivia is a very big natural gas producer, and Brazil is a very big ethanol producer.
Yes.
So do you think that energy could be an asset that Latin America will have during this century?
I think so. And I think, though, but it's very important for Latin America not to suffer the curse that the Middle East suffered, which is to say you have to have a diversified economy, because oil and natural gas and energy resources go up and they go down. And you can ride them high when they're up, but if your economy is not resilient when oil prices and commodity prices generally go down, then I think you find you're in the position of some of the Gulf states, who are very rich but they have sort of a one commodity economy. And I think that's a temptation that should be avoided. As I think true economic development involves diversification and the creation of a middle class, not sort of a government taking in great resources in the energy markets and then kind of doling them out to the population.
So this opportunity should be is like Latin America having a lot of natural resources, but also the necessity to build a strong state, democratically speaking,
yes,
institutions, and just to develop.
That's exactly what I mean. Is don't be tempted by the oil wealth to just focus on oil wealth or natural gas wealth. I mean, even ethanol. I mean, that may never pan out in the United States, and it may never pan out in global markets. So you don't really want to invest so much in your energy future to the detriment of other parts of your economy.
To conclude, just one reflection. Do you think that the world energy market, the world energy issues will stabilize, or it will keep on being a troubling issue to be managed?
I think it will be an issue to be managed for a while now, and I think in part that's because the Chinese economy is just growing so rapidly and absorbing so much energy, and the United States economy is another large energy-consuming economy. I think those two, along pulling the rest of the world, will mean that energy demand is going to stay very strong for quite some time, and that will keep energy politics at the forefront as well.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you.